Hi friends, welcome to a Miss Mindy Minute. This is a time where you as a student and I as a school counselor work on what can sometimes be the hardest things, heart things. During our time together, we will focus on ways that you can work to make your heart and your actions and your choices to mirror the heart of Jesus. I just moved to a new place and have started at a new school. If you've ever had to do it, you know it's really hard. It's a tough thing to come to a new place and learn new ways of doing things and make new friends. It's really been a big learning curve for me, and in all of that, I've been hoping for one thing: acceptance. You see, because I'm new, I'm hoping to be accepted. I want my peers to accept me. I want my colleagues to accept me. I want my community to accept me. I want a church family to accept me. I want to belong. And there's something nice about belonging, isn't there? You're able to know that you're liked for who you are. You're reassured that you can be you and that there's people who are similar to you, right? When you belong to a group of friends, it means something. When I'm thinking about wanting to belong and have friends, I think about the disciples. Those 12 guys hadn't ever belonged before Jesus found them. Thomas and Bartholomew were likely poor and uneducated. Fisherman Andrew, James, Peter, and John smelled like fish. Tax collector Matthew was disliked by his entire community. Judas was a thief and an outcast. The disciples weren't accepted and didn't belong until Jesus found them. With Jesus, each of those 12 were reassured that they could be themselves. With Jesus, they found similarities with others. With Jesus, they knew that they were liked for who they were. With Jesus, the disciples found acceptance, belonging, and an understanding of how to be that way with others. And we see it here in John chapter 4, when Jesus and his disciples are in Samaria. Now, you and I know a couple of things already about Samaria. First, Samaritans weren't accepted by the Jews. And secondly, Samaritans didn't belong with Jews. In fact, Jews considered Samaritans to be dirty. They didn't like their skin color or the Samaritan culture at all. They looked down on them and would often, check this out, travel hundreds of miles out of the way to avoid having to interact with the Samaritans. And yet we see Jesus on purpose traveling through Samaria. He intentionally takes his disciples with him to walk along among Samaritans and interact with people who didn't belong and weren't accepted. So as they were walking, and you picture this in your mind, it's hot, it's dusty, the disciples are complaining, when are we going to get there from the back seat? Are we almost there yet? And in verse 5, we know that they come to a town called Sychar. Verse 6 tells us this: that Jesus is tired from his long trip and he sits down beside a well. So it's 12 noon. Oh yeah, it's lunchtime, and the disciples are hungry, so Jesus sends them out to town to get lunch. And there go the 12 men. They rush over the hill, and they're gonna hit up Taco Bell, Subway, and Chipotle, right? And in the meantime, there sits Jesus in the town of the dirty, unaccepted, unbelonging people. And along comes a Samaritan woman. Now check this out. She is only a Samaritan and he's a Jew. She's a woman, he's a man. She's a prostitute, he's a prophet. She's unaccepted by the fellow women in her town. He's accepted by thousands in his country. She doesn't belong anywhere and matter to anyone. He's sought after by thousands and wants to belong, and they want to matter to him. So she's here at the well at noonday. And you know why? Here's why. I mean, think about it though. Why wouldn't she come and do the heaviest, hottest, longest job early in the morning or later in the evening when it was cooler? Why is she coming in the middle of the day? Here's why. Because if she came in the early morning or later in the day, other women would come there too, and they would mock her and ridicule her and bully her. So her only option is to come at noontime when no one else is around, hoping that no one will notice her. But Jesus is there. Jesus notices her. And so he talks to her and he shows interest in her. He isn't judgy and condescending. He doesn't worry about his reputation for being seen with a dirty, unacceptable, unbelonging woman. Instead, he lowers himself and asks something from her, to be the lesser, to uplift her by lowering himself and asking to have a drink of water. In verse 9, we see that the Samaritan woman is really surprised and confused by this because no one has ever been genuine and accepted her for who she is. And you know who else is surprised? Here in verse 27 shows the disciples coming back from town. And they're carrying their Taco Bell nachos and their Subway 12-inchers, right? I picture them coming up over a hill and looking down to see Jesus sitting with the dirty, sitting with the unaccepted, sitting with the unbelonging woman. And yet, here's my favorite part. The Bible tells us, I love it. None of them asked, what do you want? Or why are you talking to her? I love that. They're surprised, but not really. They see Jesus doing something out of the ordinary, but not really. They see an act of kindness that blows their mind, but not really. Because that's the kind of friend that Jesus was. He sought after those who were dirty and asked something from them. He looked for the unacceptable and was non-judgy. He went to those who were unbelonging and made them feel like they belonged. And because that's who Jesus was and what Jesus did and the why that Jesus stood for, people around him didn't question it. They knew that he was just that kind of person. And won't you be that kind of person today like Jesus? The kind that seeks out those who aren't in the cool crowd, who don't have the acceptable it device or home or clothes, who don't belong to the club or group of leaders in your school. Won't you be the person that no one questions, even if they're surprised, because they know that you're that kind of guy or girl, the kind that has a Jesus heart that makes everyone feel accepted, everyone be sought after, and everyone find belonging. Won't you be that kind of person today? That's all for today's Miss Mindy Minute. Until next time, bye-bye.